Hello guys, I've been baking this video with all the information you need to be able to understand the actors' strike. But first, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss what we are baking with your fave celebs' latest info. For the ones that not know, the actors were on a strike that concluded at 12:01 a.m. on Thursday, November 9, 2023. The strike came with a lot of ups and downs for the industry. Even the economy of the state of California faced a loss of approximately $6 billion. So let's see what other challenges and what actual benefits came with this strike. We know that you probably have several questions about the whole thing, and we are here to answer them one by one, so stick around. First, acronyms and words that you need to be familiar with. SAG-AFTRA, the Actors Guild and American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. A guild, an association of artisans and merchants who oversee the practice of their craft or trade in a particular territory. AMPTP, Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. WGA, Writers Guild of America. IATSE, International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. Why did the SAG-AFTRA go on strike? Every 3 years, the Actors Guild and American Federation of Television and Radio Artists need to renegotiate their contract with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. The last time they did it was in 2020, and this year the contract was set to expire on June 30, 2023. The union was eager to negotiate since up-and-coming technology, such as streaming services and AI, have completely changed the game in their industry, and many members were affected by it. On top of the rising inflation, already making their careers not sustainable, and many of the entertainers having to resort to having other jobs to sustain themselves and their families. Because believe it or not everyone in Hollywood is as wealthy as movies led us to believe. Initially, the SAG-AFTRA wasn't looking to join their writer friends on a strike. However, they did pursue a strike authorization, mostly to use as leverage during the negotiation, letting the big corporations know they were ready to do what needed to be done. The Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers seemed to be extending the process beyond the deadline, a statement that seems to be true since several outlets reported that the studios wanted to wait until the union members would lose their houses and money so they would accept the less advantageous conditions, which prompted the SAG-AFTRA to make clear that they wouldn't continue negotiating after July 12, 2023. In response, several high-profile actors affirmed their willingness to strike. Since the AMPTP continued with their old tactics, the SAG-AFTRA president, Fran Drescher, announced the beginning of the actors' strike at midnight on July 14, 2023. Which immediately paused Hollywood, given that it's not only the first time actors initiated a labor dispute since the 1980s actors' strike, but it is also the first time that actors and writers have walked out simultaneously since 1960. To paint a better picture, during that time, the icon Marilyn Monroe was still dominating the movie scene, and Ronald Reagan was the president of the SAG-AFTRA, before even being governor of California or the president of the United States. If you ask me, going on strike was the right move, considering that now they achieved a contract valued at over $1 billion, with a lot of the deals they were fighting so hard to obtain. What were the terms of the negotiation? The union was negotiating several deals that would allow a better environment for the present and future members, but the most relevant ones are streaming revenue. I know that we see all these incredibly successful shows on the many streaming platforms that exist now. But what we don't see is that most actors aren't receiving fair compensation for their work. Not caring if it's the most watched show or if it's on several different platforms, at the end of the day, the big corporations are taking the biggest piece of the pie. Most noticeably, actress Mandy Moore from the hit show This Is Us generated controversy while saying that she only receives about 81-cent checks for the streaming residuals of her show. People were quick to call her out, saying that since she was a main character, she probably already made more than enough. But those people were failing to see the bigger picture. What she was trying to do was enlighten us by explaining how a very important character on a quite successful show is making very little. So now try to imagine how the checks for the minor actors on the show must be. Probably just zeros, and those are the ones in bigger need of a fair contract. because not only are they not receiving fair compensation, but they also have to deal with inflation, as the rest of us. Happily, the agreement will allow the members to get a substantial bonus on top of existing residuals. The majority will go to actors working on programs meeting certain viewership requirements. Another great news is that the agreement secured increased contribution caps of 43% for one-hour productions and nearly 67% for half-hour productions. This will lead to more money in healthcare and pension or retirement funds and will allow to keep the actors qualified for their benefits. As far as general payments go, entertainers will see 2 wage increases in the contract's first year, 7% following ratification of the contract and another 4% in July next year, making a compounded first-year increase of 11.28%. The union members will also see a 3.5% pay bump in July 2025. Background actors will see similar raises, but with 11% upfront instead of 7%. Now, to finish it off, let's go to the most controversial of all, artificial intelligence, which apparently was the last one to be agreed upon by the studios. You may wonder, what's the big deal of AI? It seems like a great tool to help us out, but in the entertainment world, it came as the Grim Reaper, since it meant more money for the studios and less for entertainers. The studios were planning on paying background actors a day's worth of money, which could be around $100, to scan them and be able to use them and their likenesses from then on, which made everyone in the industry shiver by the thought of their image being used without their consent or compensation. But not to worry, the Guild says it secured meaningful protections around the use of artificial intelligence, including informed consent and compensation. Best said by National Executive Director Duncan Crabtree Ireland, it allows the industry to go forward. It does not block AI, but it makes sure that performers are protected, their rights to consent are protected, and their rights to fair compensation and employment are protected. What rules were established for the strikers? During the strike that lasted 118 days, the actors weren't allowed to engage in film or television productions and couldn't take part in promotional work, such as film premieres, interviews, or red carpets. Which is why the Venice and Toronto film festivals felt emptier, and also why releases like Dune Part 2 were rescheduled. So, as you can see, the strike not only affected the films in progress, but also the ones ready to premiere. But though these rules were in order, there were still some productions that were allowed to work or have publicity done by actors. They were mostly independent or student films, or any that met the SAG-AFTRA's request and that weren't part of the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. An example of this is the movie Wildcat, directed by acclaimed actor Ethan Hawke, which includes his daughter Maya as the lead, and also as an executive producer. This film was allowed to do interviews and anything needed for the promotion of it. Another example is the production The Iron Claw, in which stars were able to attend the premiere and do interviews. Which actors were seen supporting the strike? A majority of actors have supported the strike, some via words of encouragement like Meryl Streep, Jennifer Lawrence, Rami Malek, Glenn Close, Mark Ruffalo, and more household names, who signed an open letter to SAG-AFTRA in support of industrial action saying, "We feel that our wages, our craft, our creative freedom, and the power of our union have all been undermined in the last decade. We need to reverse those trajectories." Others have done so with signs on the street and through social media, like Margot Robbie, Logan Lerman, Olivia Wilde, Bryan Cranston, Rosario Dawson, and many more. Even the actors of the highly anticipated Oppenheimer showed their support when the director Christopher Nolan announced at the London premiere that took place on July 13, 2023, that the cast, including Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh, Matt Damon, and Rami Malek, had walked out in solidarity for the strike.
We have to acknowledge you've seen them here earlier on the red carpet. Unfortunately, they're off to write their picket signs for what we believe to be an imminent strike by SAG, joining my guild, one of my guilds, the Writers Guild, in the struggle for fair wages for working members of those unions.
Other Hollywood stars have come together to raise money for striking crew members by having auctions on eBay. Some of the available offers were a pottery session with Busy Phillips, a game of 20 questions with Maggie Gyllenhaal, and a home mural painted by Lena Dunham. Does this mean anything outside of the US? The strike only affects international productions if there is a member or members of the SAG-AFTRA. If, for example, the cast is mainly from the UK, the actors should work as usual because they work with an equity contract, meaning that they work with the British Actors Equity Association, which is the union for the performing arts and entertainment industries in the United Kingdom. Many fans were throwing daggers at the House of the Dragon production for continuing its filming despite what was going on in the US. But what they probably didn't know is that any sympathy strike in the UK is illegal as per the trade union and labor relations, meaning they all have to keep working or they could be sued. Despite this, the Equity made it clear that their support stands with the Actors Guild and American Federation of Television and Radio Artists Union, which was shown while stars like Brian Cox, Imelda Staunton, Naomi Harris, Simon Pegg, and more led a demonstration in Leicester Square in solidarity with the US strike. Although, as mentioned, this is as far as the Equity can go to help the situation. Why were the hosts of talk shows and the crew of Saturday Night Live allowed to return to work as soon as the writers' strike was over? The only thing keeping television going was the fact that talk shows and Saturday Night Live were able to come back when the writers' strike ended. But why? How come these entertainers were allowed to work? Well, that is because hosts, crews, and guest stars in SNL are performing under a network code agreement, best known as a net code. And that code is not one of the contracts that the Actors Guild and American Federation of Television and Radio Artists strike. The union has actually explained, saying, "The SNL crew are not in violation of SAG-AFTRA strike rules, and we support them in fulfilling their contractual obligations." The program is a SAG-AFTRA non-dramatic production under a separate agreement that is not subject to the union's strike order. Other shows covered by the net code are morning shows, soap operas, variety, reality TV, game shows, and talk shows. It is also stipulated under that contract that the performers have to return to work if asked to by the producers. So stars like Pete Davidson and Timothée Chalamet could perform with a clear conscience. What will happen next in the industry? This whole situation with the strikes paralyzed the industry for longer than expected. It might be the biggest break since the COVID-19 pandemic. Another thing that was worrying performers in need of work is that the holidays are around the corner, which usually means that productions go on break, but it seems that it benefits everyone to start to work as soon as possible, despite the holidays. So how are things going to proceed? I think first is important to know that the agreement that ended the strike is a tentative agreement and that now the SAG-AFTRA members need to vote, which is scheduled to take place between November 14 and December 5, 2023. As for now, productions like Deadpool 3, Wicked, and Gladiator 2 can continue, and with the writers already back to work, there are plenty of other projects that can resume as well. My only concern would be that now a lot of projects seem to be piled up, but hopefully they will find the right time for everything. Another part of the industry that has been reactivated is the award season. Now, the For Your Consideration campaigns are back on, and next year we can expect the award season to return with a little twist. Now we have the Emmys that were moved from September to January. Everything seems to be a win for the workers of the entertainment industry lately, but things are further away from a fairy tale because it's been said that studios are now looking to make fewer shows and movies, since before the strike, the streaming strategies were being examined to look for a path of more profitability. In the words of Jonathan Taplin, Director Emeritus of the USC Annenberg Innovation Lab, "The streaming business is completely screwed up. There's too much content, and nobody seems to be able to make any profit from it." Even Walt Disney's CEO said they are working under the idea of make less, focus more on quality. Which means that the actors are embarking on a journey of better pay, but with fewer jobs and in a very competitive field. Optimistically, most will be able to navigate the hard situation that is coming their way. But for now, let's celebrate the win and wish that the renegotiation of the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees contract that is set for 2024 doesn't come with another paralyzing strike. What does this mean for us, the viewers? For us, the viewers, it means that we will have to wait a little longer for some very anticipated shows and movies like Stranger Things' 5th and final season, The White Lotus's 3rd season, Deadpool's 3rd installment, and more. So, for you to be ready, we bring you a list of some of the projects and the dates that we know so far. Deadpool 3. The Marvel film was originally set to be released on May 3, 2024, but filming was interrupted when it was about 50% complete. For now, the new release date hasn't been confirmed, so let's hope to have it on the big screen by next summer. Dune Part 2. The November release has been delayed until March 2024, so the actors can do the required promotion. This delay sadly means that the film is out of the race for the awards next year. The movie brings back Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya, but they are now accompanied by Florence Pugh, Austin Butler, and Christopher Walken. Wicked, Part 1 and 2. The movie was apparently 10 days away from completion of both movies. The director, John M. Chu, says that despite the delays, he expects that the movies will be released on schedule, the first part in November 2024 and Part 2 the following year. Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. The voice recording for the third animated Spider-Man installment is set to resume soon. It was originally set to be released on March 29, 2024, but it has now been pushed off the 2024 schedule. Sadly, we don't have updates on its new premiere date, but we'll keep you updated. I know this was a lot of information to take in, but if you made it to the end, please let me know what you think of the whole situation. What do you think is the future of Hollywood, and what show or movie are you sad that was delayed? I would love to know your opinion. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see what we are baking for our next video.